the treaty Machiavelli warned about, designed to fail from day one.
What if I told you there is a military strategy so perfect, so ruthlessly effective that no army, not one, has ever defeated it in over 2,000 years of recorded warfare? Not the Romans, not the Mongols, not Napoleon, not the greatest generals who ever walked the earth. This is not a legend. This is not myth. It is documented history, and it has been hiding in plain sight, used by commanders from ancient China to modern battlefields. By the end of this video, you will understand it completely, and once you see it, you will recognize it everywhere. In war, in business, in life. Stay with me. This is going to change the way you think. Before we name the strategy, let us understand the world it came from. 500 years before Christ, China was consumed by war. Warlords, princes, and kingdoms slaughtered each other across a fractured empire, in a period historians call the Warring States era. It was brutal, chaotic, and unforgiving. In the middle of all that bloodshed, a general and military philosopher named Sun Tzu wrote a short book, 13 chapters, barely 6,000 words, and in those pages he recorded something that was already ancient even in his time, a principle of warfare that he called the strategy of supreme excellence. Sun Tzu wrote, and I want you to hear this clearly. He wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Read that again. To subdue the enemy without fighting. That is the strategy. But what does it actually mean? And how has it never been defeated? Let us go deeper. The strategy has a name. It is called, in military doctrine, the strategy of indirect approach. Some historians call it the principle of dislocation. Sun Tzu called it winning before the battle begins. Here is the core idea. Rather than attacking your enemy where they are strong, you attack where they are weak. Rather than meeting force with force, you use speed, deception, positioning, and psychological pressure to collapse their will before a single sword is drawn. Think of it like this. Imagine two chess players. One player charges forward, trading piece for piece, relying on raw power. The other moves quietly, patiently, cutting off escape routes, controlling the board, surrounding the opponent, until the opponent looks up and realizes, with cold dread, that they have already lost. The game was over before the final move was ever made. That is the indirect approach. Victory through positioning, not through brute force. The great British military strategist B.H. Little Hart spent his entire career studying warfare after the catastrophic slaughter of World War I. He asked a single haunting question. In all of recorded military history, across hundreds of campaigns and thousands of battles, which strategy actually works? His answer, after studying over 30 major conflicts, was unambiguous. In all but 6 of those conflicts, the side that used the indirect approach, movement, misdirection, cutting supply lines, striking the flank, bypassing strength to attack weakness, won. And the 6 exceptions? They involved circumstances where no strategy mattered, because of overwhelming numerical or technological disadvantage. No army that truly mastered and applied the indirect approach ever lost. Not one. Let us put the strategy to the test. Year 216 BC, Cannae,
southern Italy. The Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca faces a Roman army nearly double the size of his own. The Romans had 86,000 soldiers. Hannibal had 50,000. By every conventional measure, Hannibal should have been annihilated. Instead, what happened at Cannae is still studied in every military academy on Earth today. It is considered the most perfect tactical victory in the history of warfare. Hannibal did not meet Rome's strength with strength. He did not charge into the armored center of the Roman formation. Instead, he deliberately weakened his own center, drawing the Romans in, letting them push forward with confidence, while his stronger forces on the flanks held, then curved inward like two arms of a closing trap. Within hours, 70,000 Roman soldiers were dead. The Romans lost more men in a single afternoon than the United States lost in the entire Vietnam War. And Hannibal? He lost around 6,000 men. He did not beat Rome by being stronger. He beat Rome by being indirect, by using the enemy's own momentum, aggression, and overconfidence against them. That is the strategy working at its purest. Jump forward 14 centuries. The Mongols. Under Genghis Khan and his generals, the Mongol armies conquered more land in 25 years than the Roman Empire conquered in 4 centuries. How? They were not the largest army. They were not the most heavily armored. And they were fighting against civilizations with stone fortresses, professional soldiers, and centuries of military tradition. The answer is almost entirely indirect approach. The Mongols used speed as a weapon. Their cavalry moved so fast that enemies could not form coherent defenses. They used psychological warfare, sending emissaries ahead to describe the fate of those who resisted, breaking the will of cities before the army even arrived. They used feigned retreats, pulling back as if defeated, luring pursuing enemies into prepared ambushes. They cut supply lines. They bypassed fortified cities to strike the soft interior of empires, collapsing the economic and political structures that armies depended on. By the time an enemy realized what was happening, the battle was already decided. Not on the field, in the mind. The Mongol campaigns are studied to this day not for their brutality, though they were brutal, but for their extraordinary strategic genius. Genius that relied entirely on the indirect approach. Let us fast forward to the 20th century. 1991, the Gulf War. Iraq had one of the largest armies on Earth. Hundreds of thousands of battle-hardened troops entrenched in the Kuwaiti desert, waiting behind fortified lines. The world expected a prolonged, bloody war. Military analysts predicted tens of thousands of coalition casualties. What happened instead became known as the left hook. While the world watched coalition forces mass on the Kuwaiti border, while Iraqi commanders stared at the obvious front, an entire armored corps quietly moved hundreds of miles to the west, through the open desert, looping far around the Iraqi flank in total secrecy. When the ground war began, Iraqi forces defending the front found themselves being struck from behind. Their supply lines were severed. Their command structures collapsed. Their will to fight evaporated. 100 hours. The ground war lasted 100 hours.
The conflict that analysts projected would cost tens of thousands of lives cost fewer than 300 coalition fatalities in ground combat. The indirect approach, executed with modern technology, the same principle that Hannibal used in 216 BC, replicated with tanks and helicopters 2,000 years later. The strategy does not age. It simply finds new weapons. So what are the actual mechanics? How does the indirect approach work? Let me give you the 5 principles that define it across every era. Principle 1. Never attack strength directly. Where the enemy is powerful, do not meet them there. Find the gap, the flank, the weak point. Force is wasted against fortified strength. Energy finds the path of least resistance. Principle 2. Control the psychological dimension. Sun Tzu wrote, "All warfare is based on deception. Make the enemy believe you are where you are not. Make them defend everywhere so they are strong nowhere." The battle is won in the mind before it is won on the ground. Principle 3. Dislocate before you destroy. Dislocation means removing the enemy's ability to respond, cutting communications, severing supply lines, isolating units, creating confusion. A paralyzed enemy cannot fight effectively even if they are not yet defeated. Principle 4. Use the enemy's momentum against them. Hannibal did this at Cannae. The Mongols did this with feigned retreats. Let the enemy overcommit, overextend, or rush forward. Then redirect their energy into destruction. Water does not fight the rock. It flows around it and erodes it over time. Principle 5. Win before the battle begins. The highest expression of the strategy is making the actual battle unnecessary. Through positioning, alliances, psychological pressure, and strategic maneuvering, create a situation where the enemy recognizes defeat is inevitable and either surrenders, retreats, or collapses from within. The enemy who has already lost in their mind will not fight effectively even when they must. Here is the reason, the deep reason, why this strategy has never been defeated. Every other military strategy has a counter-strategy. If you attack the center, the enemy reinforces the center. If you attack the flank, the enemy guards the flank. If you charge, they dig in. There is always a response. But the indirect approach is not a fixed tactic. It is a principle, a way of thinking. It says, wherever you are strong, I will not be there. Whatever you prepare for, that is not where I will strike. I will always find the gap you have not filled, the moment you are not ready, the direction you did not expect. You cannot defend against a principle. You can only adopt it yourself. And the extraordinary irony, the supreme irony of military history, is that when two commanders both master the indirect approach, the one who applies it more creatively, more patiently, more completely, wins. The strategy defeats itself only when both sides know it equally well. And even then, it comes down to vision, timing, and nerve. It is not a trick. It is the structure of intelligent conflict.
Here's what I want you to carry with you from this video. The indirect approach does not belong only to war. Sun Tzu knew this. Liddell Hart knew this. Every great strategist in history knew this. In business, the company that does not attack the market leader directly, but finds the unserved gap, the underserved customer, the ignored product category, that company wins. In negotiation, the person who does not demand what they want head-on, but creates conditions where the other side believes giving it to them is their own idea, that person wins. In life, the individual who does not fight every obstacle directly, but moves around, under, through, and past resistance with patience and creativity, that person builds something lasting. 2,000 years, every continent, every era, every type of conflict. The strategy that has never been defeated is not about weapons or armies. It is about the quality of your thinking. It is about seeing what others do not see, moving where others do not expect, and winning a battle so completely that your enemy never truly knows when they lost it. That is the art of war at its highest level. That is the strategy that has never been defeated. If this changed the way you think, share it, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.